then you start going to Toronto. And once you start going to Toronto, then you start going to the record stores where the guy is scary, and you want to be like cool to impress the owner, but he doesn't give you anything, So then you're like, okay, what do I gotta buy? Like, should I buy this Dills record? Is that like gonna be cool enough? Like, so there's that element of just like, how deep do I have to go here before he's like, oh, nice.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Der Soundtrack meines Lebens. Ich bin Jan Schwarzkamp und ich werde euch in diesem Podcast auf eine musikalische Reise mitnehmen. Eine durch das tönende und klingende Leben meiner Gäste. Mal nerdig, mal erhellend, immer persönlich. Ein Austausch über Popkultur im Allgemeinen und ein Blick aufs Leben durch die Linse der Musik im Speziellen. Viel Spaß mit der folgenden Episode. Zu Gast in dieser Episode von der Soundtrack meines Lebens sind erstmals zwei Gäste, Daniel und Ian Romano. Es war mir eine Herzensangelegenheit, dieses multidisziplinäre Brüderpaar einzuladen. Zusammengenommen sind sie an weit über 200 Tonträgern beteiligt, aber der Reihe nach. Zur Welt kommen beide am 9. April um 23:01 Uhr. Daniel allerdings 1985, Ian 1988. Sie wachsen in Welland im kanadischen Ontario auf. Die Eltern Joni und David machen auch Musik, werden fortan gelegentlich in die Projekte ihrer Söhne einbezogen. Daniel ist 20, Ian 17, als die beiden mit ihrer ersten Band Attack in Black ihr Demo veröffentlichen. Es ist Hardcore-Punk. Der Sound ändert sich bald zu Emo-Punk und Folk und alles existiert bei ihnen parallel. 20 Jahre später haben die Romanos die unterschiedlichsten Felder beackert. Daniel hat mehrere Alben als Country-Singer-Songwriter aufgenommen, sogar 2 Alben mit Meditationsmusik, aber auch Punkrock mit Ancient Shapes und dem Daniel Romano-Outfit. Häufig spielt Daniel alle Instrumente ein, kümmert sich um Aufnahme und Produktion. Sein Bruder Ian ist meist dabei, hilft mit, vor allem am Schlagzeug. Ian managt das gemeinsame Studio, die Touren, steht am Merch-Stand. Gemeinsam haben beide mit Dallas Greens Soloprojekt City and Color gearbeitet, haben mit Tool-Schlagzeuger Danny Carey einen 23-minütigen Psych-Prog-Song aufgenommen und das ist nur die Spitze des Eisbergs. Daniel stellt außerdem Gitarrengurte aus Leder her. Er ist Dichter und Zeichner, dessen Artworks bereits diverse Alben verschönert haben. Das Label You've Changed Records betreibt er obendrein. Und jetzt freue ich mich sehr, Daniel und Ian Romano hier in der Soundtrack meines Lebens willkommen zu heißen. Die beiden teilen sich ein Mikrofon und ich hoffe, dass das reibungslos funktionieren wird. Und sie haben Tommy mitgebracht. Der ist quasi der Joker. Wenn die beiden also keine Antwort haben, dann springt Kollege Tommy ein. Hi Daniel. Hi Ian.
Hello.
Hi Tommy.
Hello.
I'm very happy to have you all here. So, I just gave away a glimpse of all the things you did and what you are artistically capable of. Do you easily get bored?
No, we're actively battling boredom at all times, I think. So I think we're just constantly motivated for whatever reason.
Yeah. But how does it come that you are both so multidisciplined?
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
I think that comes from punk. I think it comes from growing up in a sort of do-it-yourself aesthetics type of environment and kind of being like genuinely interested in all the sort of aspects of creating something. And the different sort of limbs that might have, and just kind of wanting to be involved in all of those things, which I think is a pretty helpful attribute to have now, especially.
Yeah. You were born 3 years apart, but on the same day.
Yeah.
And legend has it, even on the same minute. You work symbiotically. You often help each other out. Did you always get along that well?
Pass over me. Yeah. I mean, like any sibling relationship, there's ups and downs, and I think, like ultimately, the music is, even in dark times, like the music has always brought us back, and we just work together so well, and like can have a bit of that sort of kismet, like reading the mind thing, where creating music together is just so almost very little thought put into it.
Sacred, you could say. You could say sacred.
Yeah, but Ian, I realized that I mentioned Daniel's name quite often in the introduction and not yours.
It's okay.
Does it sometimes feel like he is stealing your sunshine, or is it like...
No. I know my role. Like I'm not, like I certainly contribute to songwriting, but I'm not writing any of the words. I'll give input on interesting rhythmic ideas, or like some chord progressions or something like that. More of like an inspiration of where something could go. But I mean, Dan's putting the bow on it.
Okay.
But also, we've, up until this point, it's been a bit of a gray area as far as like what it is. And now it feels very much like a band. So, I'm growing less and less comfortable with having my name actually attached to it. In fact, I don't want it to be at this point, because it doesn't feel like my thing anymore. It's very much more communal in every way. So unfortunately, it's still attached, and you know how it goes, but yeah.
By now, it's basically the outfit, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You grew up in the Canadian town of Welland. That's pretty close to the Niagara Falls, so 15 minutes away, kind of. And your parents, Joni and David, they are musicians themselves. They play in an R&B band. So I guess music was always around in the Romanos' household, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I think much to their credit, there was never any kind of expectation or forced engagement as far as the things that were laying around. It was just up to us, to sort of, it was nice that, we're lucky that the things were there, but there wasn't any sort of like expectation of us to engage with them. And I think that that's probably why we did. Yeah. And kept with it,
Can you remember what music you were drawn to first?
I mean,
like
we both ended up playing, like filling in for their rhythm and blues band, like a covers band, like when we were quite young, because whatever, their drummer couldn't make it or something. And I was playing like, it was like Rolling Stones or Van Morrison or all these. I didn't know what any of it was. I just knew how it sounded from hearing their rehearsals.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to step in for a second, because there is like when you're that young and your parents are musicians like that, I mean, I think there's like a sort of like a form of ignorance that was there, at least for me, where like I was not aware that this was like a cover band. Like I thought that they wrote the Beatles songs, like all of this. So I'm just like, man, my parents are freaking amazing, and they are. But they didn't write all the James Brown hits. But I know that now.
But wasn't that stuff like running on their stereo at home all the time? And you're like, but that's the song you're playing.
I mean, to a degree, but they were sort of folkies as far as like what they would actually play on the stereo. They love like Richard Thompson and things like that, which I didn't come to until sort of my late 20s. In fact, I didn't like it. I remember actively not liking sort of later era Richard Thompson as a kid. Now I do. Yeah. But
it grew on you.
Yeah, slow burn.
But a question that I'm always asking is, do you have a very early musical memory, something that you remember that like an aha moment where music entered your life in some sort of way, where you were like, oh, I still can remember hearing that song for the first time? Or
I think the first, I mean, I remember getting interested in guitar and then asking my dad to teach me some chords. But at this point, I was already sort of veering towards punk, and so he showed me like some standard chord fingerings and stuff, and I was like, well, this sounds stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, this sounds like, dorky or whatever. And then I remember my babysitter, Michael Kroll, I believe his name was, he was like a kind of a grunge guy. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, this guy's cool. And he was like, do you want to learn like a real chord? So then he showed me like a power chord.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, so you can just do all the stuff with just this one thing? It's like every note, whatever. Every chord is just the same exact thing. He's like, yeah. And then that was the sort of like, okay, now I can probably play like every song. Some version. I can probably play a dumb version of every song now.
Okay, but
with the power chord.
So when did you both start actively playing an instrument?
I don't know. I mean, I think I was probably 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably about the same age. And like Dan was saying, I think a lot of it came from definitely the interest from just hearing music around the house, but a lot of it I think was that like our dad probably just wanted somebody else to play with, so he'd be like, can you like hop on the drums for a second and do, and then it just sort of starts from that. And I do think that there was some natural ability there, so probably just sort of taken that for granted, just like, oh, this is fun and easy.
And it seems that there is a certain playfulness. I mean, at least your parents just let you use their stuff, right? There was no, don't touch my guitar. That's like
they were very into when we were doing it, but they also weren't like forceful about it, which is perfect.
What you got into really early was stuff like The Who, The Kings, Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Everly Brothers, because that's the stuff your parents played in the band.
Yeah. And I mean, it was kind of like an ignorant enjoyment because I didn't really know. There was no like the ephemera that comes with sort of like knowing about those people was kind of like way later, and it was really just like purely musical. No sort of idolatry. It was just like, I don't know what this is from. I know it's other people's stuff and I like it, but I don't know who it is. So the sort of like the figures came later.
Can you remember when there was a point where you started like wanting to know who wrote what song and on what record it is? Because at some point, I guess you might start collecting records.
That's exactly it. Like, I think it's when we started like pilfering my dad's LPs. They were like, oh, weird. That guy doesn't look like what I thought he would look like.
For me, like, I think because me and Dan have 3 years between us, like, I think I was definitely hearing that around the house, but like Dan's saying, like almost taking it for granted to a certain extent, like just being like, oh, these are great songs. But like my memory of like really getting into music in like a sort of conscious way was like learning about punk through Dan.
Yeah.
And then like that really brought in the aesthetic of like, oh, like I can play this. Like this isn't and then I think everything you just mentioned, like, is basically like proto-punk anyway. Like it's like the clear next step in the evolution of rock and roll. So
but let's talk about a photo that your mother never gets tired of sharing on your birthday. It shows the both of you as little boys in black and white in your living room holding huge guitars.
They look so big.
When was that? I mean, it must have been, probably been, I don't know,
maybe I was
10 and you're 7 or something like that. But was that around the time where you like started like, okay, let's try to
the guitar he's holding was my guitar at the time. And the one I'm holding was my dad's, or is still my dad's guitar. And they both look gigantic.
I have a memory also of, I don't remember exactly what happened. I think I was like mad at Dan for something at one point, and that black guitar was his, and I just fucking smashed it.
Oh, you did? Oh no!
Or we got in some sort of fight, and I think I like was just flailing it around, and I had to get it fixed. Also, sorry, I don't know if I could swear on here, but
You are allowed to swear. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a German.
Yeah, right.
It's a German podcast. Well, I believe instruments were always around at the Romano's house. So at some point you actively grabbed them and started playing. Can you remember what you if like, was it like, and did you share a room or did you have separate rooms?
Yeah, it kind of bounced around.
Okay.
We did, and then we didn't, and then we did again. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were always
But
sort of discussing.
did you just like play band at home? Like,
Yeah, kind of.
like,
yeah.
like you play house, you play
Yeah.
band, and
I think you could describe it like that. Yeah.
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 definite. Oh, sorry.
I just remember like strumming the guitar before knowing chords,
Yeah.
and like listening to something so that I couldn't hear what the guitar sounded like. Like wearing headphones and like feeling like what it probably feels like to be doing it correctly. You know,
so
like
quite intuitive.
yeah, like I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, so it's like this, but then
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's happening
Yes.
on this
Yeah.
hand,
Yeah.
but you just like, yeah, I don't know, and I guess that's a weird thing to do, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I started singing like fantasy English when I fell in love with Elvis.
right, interesting.
Like I couldn't speak any English, but I like, I don't know.
You're just like, oh,
What's wrong with the camera?
Yeah,
something like that. So that's what. Yeah.
yeah, beautiful.
So you are both multi-instrumentalists. Did you ever take proper lessons for anything, or did you just learn everything with the help of your parents and your babysitter, for example?
Right. I briefly took piano lessons and fiddle lessons, both of which are my worst instruments. So, I don't know if that is, maybe just like synchronistic, or if there's actually some, a reason for that. But
I don't think I took lessons per se. I think my dad probably showed me some chords, but I think a lot of this stems around probably the same things that happen now. Just like Dan's working on something and be like, "What's that?" And then just wanting to chime in on that and like do the brotherly thing, like be like, "Well, me too."
yeah.
But Ian, your main instrument is the drums, right?
Yeah.
But you can also play guitar and bass and.
I do, yeah. I mean, I'm in no way a fluent guitar player. Like, I do it for the sake of creating in the sort of purest form of it. Like, the amount of times that I think I've played somebody else's song, is less than on one hand. Like, I can't think of the amount of times that I've done that. But like, purely for the sake of creating is what I end up going to on that.
And Daniel, you can play guitar, drums, bass. You can play everything, right? I mean, at least in ancient shapes.
Yeah.
You just do everything.
And up until the last one, yes. On the last one, Ian and I split duties, I think, and he did. Did you do guitar on the? Maybe I did. We shared the drum thing at least.
Yeah.
I can't really remember, but yeah. But that's also just utilitarian, really. It was just like to serve the song, whatever. It's just the fastest way to get to a song.
Okay.
And Tommy also is a master of all of those particular instruments.
The quiet Tommy.
The quiet Tommy.
The joker that has not yet been part. So, did your parents take you out once in a while to see shows, or to their own shows, or like
both,
or
definitely.
did they take you on? I mean, I don't know if they were properly touring, or if they just like occasionally
it was like
played
a
with their
local bar kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay,
but they would take us to a lot of folk festivals.
Yeah.
But even back then, folk festivals weren't exclusively folk, and there was rock bands and stuff. And You know, they took us to see the Stones, and that was awesome. AC/DC played that show.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty
So yes.
Yeah.
Good lineup.
Yeah.
But folk festivals is probably a pretty popular thing that is happening in Canada, or in these,
It
also in
certainly
the
is,
bordering state of New York as well,
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
Your parents listen to lots of folk
Yeah.
at home,
Yeah.
you said. I know I'm taking a little step forward.
Sure.
But Attack in Black,
Yeah.
your basically first band, probably, maybe, yeah. They played punk, but they also played folk, basically at the same time.
Yeah.
So not only punk has left a huge impact on you, but also folk
For sure.
music, and also
Yeah.
at a very early age.
Yeah, and that was kind of like when
so-
we were sort of rediscovering or initially appreciating what that had to offer, and sort of the links between those two things, you know, in a certain respect, anyway.
Yeah. So the link is probably the DIY.
Definitely
Thing,
that.
kind of,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think a lot more of this now. I'm just trying to think back
please,
about like.
please, please
Not so much
enlighten me.
I mean, not so much the link. I'm just thinking of like, you know, the wave of British folk music in the sort of mid to late '60s, and that was very much like if you were to watch like there's like a short BBC documentary on the Wattersons. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, if you were to watch that and then be like, how is this any different than like Minor Threat? You know, it isn't. You know,
Yeah.
so I guess that like that.
Well, it's just like when there isn't an industry there
Yeah.
backing what
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
doing, but there is an audience,
Yeah.
then you have to take on all those jobs and carve your own path and figure out how the heck it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far we mainly talked about the music you and your parents liked, older stuff from the 60s and 70s, except for mentioning Minor Threat.
Yeah.
So when did you start searching for music yourselves? So when did you start listening to somehow more contemporary music, or music your parents didn't necessarily like or didn't necessarily listen to?
Probably like 11, maybe 11 or 12 years old. I don't even remember how. I think we just started going to the record store, and we knew. I can't remember how I got into it, honestly. I remember just going to shows really, really young, like punk shows.
But I mean, there must have been at least an interest and a drive to go there, or you at least had to get the info that there
Right.
is a show like that.
Yeah.
Were there maybe kids at school or in your neighborhood,
younger
or
kids,
older friends or whatever? Like,
yeah, like the neighbor, the babysitter, those kind of people who were more in tune with that kind of like thing, would like, hype us to stuff like that, or, kids on the bus, the older kids on the bus or whatever.
I have a bit of a thought on this. Like, this obviously would have sort of come along the era of like the Green Days and everything else. But I think, at least for myself, and I know Dan as well, but like a big attraction would have been a band more like Rancid, which then gets you into like Sex Pistols, which then gets you into like early hardcore and early 70s punk Buzzcocks and stuff like that. And I think that's a big part of the discovery. Like, I mean, as much as we were surrounded by Green Day or NoFX or bands like that, I think there was like an element of the rawness that was sort of like a first go-to in my mind anyway, and I would say sticks to this day.
I would also give more credit to NoFX.
I didn't want to discuss
Straight up.
yeah,
I think I learned a lot from NoFX. Still do. Yep.
yeah.
Great.
I mean, it was that scene, that
Totally.
California punk
Yeah.
scene was huge
Yeah.
in Europe and especially in Germany. So all my friends listened to it.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and I mean, we are a similar generation.
Exactly,
And,
yeah.
And I remember seeing the video to Leave It Alone on
Yeah,
MTV.
totally, yeah.
There was a punk special, and
Yeah.
then there was Time Bomb by Rancid
Yeah,
following,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, that's my jam.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
100%.
did you watch MTV?
We had Much Music, it was called. It was like sort of the Canadian version of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they had a punk show, I think, of some kind. What was the Much Music punk show? Was there a punk show? I mean, there was.
It was just called the punk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Was it George Stroumboulopoulos?
But even before that, there would have been, I believe, a punk.
No, I think there was
The Wedge.
there was the Wedge, which was which had some punk, but it was more like alternative. Yeah. Yeah, it was like kind of like all the East Coast bands mostly, but it was good. But yeah, like we definitely had access to that for sure.
But you started then, after you got to know the recent punk bands, you discovered the old stuff.
Totally.
So you started listening to the foundation, the
Yeah.
essentials.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are the ones that started it all, like MC5,
Yeah.
the Stooges,
Yeah.
and Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
There are the classic British bands like Buzzcocks,
Yeah.
Motorhead,
Yeah.
Sex Pistols, Clash, Damned, Crass, and of course the American bands like Dead Boys, Ramones, Television, and the Cramps.
Yep.
And you listened to them in your teenage years, and I guess around the end of the 90s,
Yeah.
that might be. How did you get to know about those bands? Because, well, Rancid didn't like say, hey,
You
listen to Buzzcocks,
exactly,
but
yeah.
you had to find out that there
Yeah.
was a generation
Yeah.
of punks before that,
Yeah.
and then there was another generation of punks that started it all.
Yeah.
So how did you
Sure.
find
Yeah,
out?
Thrasher magazine for sure was helpful for that.
Okay.
Skate vids.
Skate videos for sure, music and skate videos.
Yeah.
And just going to the record store
Okay.
and like looking through the punk section.
Yeah.
You know, be like, oh, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Was there a cool record store in your town, or did you have to go to
There
St.
was
Catherine's or
there was a
something?
cool record store in St. Catherine's, but which was called I'll remember it later. Loons worked there.
Yeah,
Crystal Tool. But no, I'm hung up on that. But no, there was a generic sort of chain record store.
Yeah.
And at this point you could still buy tapes and records that hadn't like fully converted to CD yet, called Sam the Record Man, which was like a big, like, I think the sort of original one was in Toronto, and then they branched out into all the little tiny
Canadian towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, they had a pretty good stuff, all things considered.
Was there a cool owner that you were like, that didn't you shy away from asking, hey, is that a good record? Or
Yeah,
can
and
you
it
put
was
it on?
actually, it was actually the guy who, like, my first band, it was the drummer of that band's older brother, who is a wild guy, but he was like very knowledgeable about like a lot of just sort of avant-garde music, and he would like hype us to a lot of stuff that was sort of beyond those bounds, and he'd be like, yeah, okay, this SoCal stuff is cool, but you should check this out. You know, he was very much like that, and honestly so was his brother. But yeah, that was kind of. And then you get into this sort of like, once you start knowing about the local stuff, you know, then you start going to Toronto. And once you start going to Toronto, then you start going to the record stores where the guy's scary, you know, and you want to be like cool to impress the owner, but he doesn't give you anything, you know? So then you're like, okay, well, what do I got to buy? Like, what's like, should I buy this Dills record? Is that like going to be cool enough? Like, you know, so... There's that element of just like, how deep do I have to go here before he's like, oh, nice. You know?
It's so weird that you want to impress the record store's owner, right? But there is this
it was an
certain
interesting
feeling.
dynamic that was real,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Now we're old enough to be friends with him, and he thinks we're cool, so it works out okay.
Yeah, I think that we just achieved that.
You
Shout out to Brian Taylor.
but Welland and the area around it is a pretty musical area.
Yeah.
And you started going to DIY shows, and you started even playing DIY shows yourselves. So how can I imagine that? I mean, when was the time, the part of when was the part in time where you started coming up with your own band, with your first band?
Yeah, it would have been like 99, 2000, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And actually, we started in separate bands.
Yeah.
And then, actually, maybe this is where you can chime in, because I don't exactly remember that. Tommy, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good and good.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
What am I answering right now?
What's like an early memory of meeting us?
Oh.
Like early Sudbury days.
Well, I'd like to say it was like 2004, maybe, probably in and around there. And there was a band called Attack in Black playing at a friend's mom's dance studio above a garage across from a McDonald's. And went there and met these guys. I was blown away. They had, at that point in time, a female in the band who I remember sitting on the floor playing organ or something, or like a keyboard, I think on her lap.
Yeah.
And she was spitting a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
She just
But yeah. But it left a lasting impression on myself and everyone there. And they started coming back to my hometown, Sudbury, seemingly like every week, every other week. So we kind of adopted them as our band.
Yeah.
Like everyone in town was the biggest fan. And I think like we kind of like, as they progressed on and did different things and grew, we kind of grew with them, you know, it feels.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So maybe like stubborn kind of like teenage kids who maybe wouldn't have broadened their horizons, maybe like musically or something, did as Attack in Black kind of changed and grew, you know?
Yeah.
So essentially, I don't know, they introduced a bunch of kids to a bunch of stuff they probably wouldn't have been introduced to.
Yeah.
Because we all thought they were so cool.
But when was the time where you actually said, let's have a band and let's call it Attack in Black and let's find people joining us?
Okay, so I don't know exactly when that was, probably just shortly before the event he was just describing, but Ian was in another band that was kind of more almost like
it was a metal band.
tech metal or something. Yeah.
Tech metal.
And I was in also slightly metallic kind of punk band. And our two friends, Spencer and Ian, who we were already close friends with through just the scene that was developing, were in this other band that was like closer to being straight up hardcore, but not quite. And we were always closest with those two of that band. And, you know, we shared a sort of like a kinship with them. And it's weird how long it actually took for those four people to actually get together. But it was just kind of like, you know, bureaucracy and weird stuff with like other people's feelings and whatnot. But eventually all those bands broke up, and that's kind of what it took for us to kind of be allowed, you know, to form that band.
Yeah.
And we had, I mean, technically Attack in Black had other members briefly. Shout out to Relish.
But where did the metal come from that you were both part of somehow before? We didn't.
Mine was not my own influence. Mine had everything to do with the other members of that band.
Okay, and they were heavily into propaganda.
Oh, I'm heavily into propaganda.
Yeah,
still.
Who isn't? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But no, they were more into like Iron Maiden and things like that. So it was just like, okay, I think I played more guitar back then than I have since, as far as like notes and stuff. Like I don't really have an interest in guitar. You know, it's totally utilitarian for me. But back then, I like sort of had to play a lot. You know, like riffs and whatnot. Whereas now, the less I have to do, the better guitar wise. But yeah, you go.
I mean, this is kind of like a two-parter in that, you know, anybody that sort of grew up in the DIY music scene, I guess throughout the ages, but like I guess specifically in the early 2000s, like there would be nothing wrong with a super heavy metal band playing with a punk band playing with there were probably some ska bands on the bill too, you know. But I mean, looping back to the other question, I definitely enjoy metal, and there was definitely a lot of good sort of crossover metal hardcore happening, like band Cursed, if you know them. They were like
there's a print hanging around the corner.
They're from the next town over, you know? And we still know some of those guys, but you know, like looped into that scene with you know, Converge and all those bands. And
what about Every Time I Die from Buffalo?
We toured with them too,
right next door.
We live 30 minutes away from those guys. All adjacent scenes, and we're all friendly.
So at some point, Attack in Black is existing, and you have your first few songs written, and with a dreadlocked punk named Adam Hendershot, you record the the self-titled 5-track demo EP that and it contains a Black Flag cover of Depression and is released on a small DIY label called Skate Ahead Records in 2005. And on that label, there are only 2 releases came out on that label.
What's the other one? Keep It Up?
Keep It Up, probably.
Probably I didn't note that down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
And this is the first record that both of you are credited to. How did this EP come about?
Holy shit. Okay. First of all, Adam Hendershot. Like, that's some Nardwuar investigation right there.
Some deep dive.
Yeah. We only went there to record because...
Keep It Up.
Yeah, exactly. Our friend Ian, who was the bass player in Attack in Black, he was also in another hardcore band with our friend Chris O'Toole and... Phil Waring, who is Skate Ahead Records. They had a band together called Keep It Up, and they were like doing a run of opening for Alexis on Fire, but they were like a straight up hardcore band, and like a la, how would you compare them?
Or in the Detroit/DC.
Yeah, sort of like yeah. Yeah, they had a sort of, I guess that's generic enough. Yeah. You know, sort of like negative approach, but not as, but anyway, so they recorded there, and we didn't know of anywhere else to record in our area, because at the time, there kind of wasn't anything. And it sounds terrible. And
it does not. It's all right.
You think so? Yeah. Well, the Keep It Up 7-inch sounds terrible.
Okay.
But it was interesting. It was a good experience.
Yeah.
A lot of what not to do.
Yeah. What I find, so Ian, do you?
No, this was not relevant at all. I remember recording there, and just watching Some Kind of Monster for the first time.
That's true.
Okay.
That's all.
Oh, yeah, the Metallica movie.
Yeah.
It
was-
but that leaves a mark watching it the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a terrible choice of things to watch while making your first kind of recording. It's like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
What are we doing?
Will we
Is
end
this-
up like that?
Exactly.
But from the very beginning, it seems that Attack in Black is not limited to punk rock. The second EP, Northern Towns, includes acoustic versions of songs that haven't been released in any other form until then. So your parents helped with vocals, your father did the mixing, artwork and layout. What's the story behind this EP, and why was there such a huge stylistic shift between your first two EPs?
Interesting. First of all, I did the mixing and layout.
Okay, well then,
That would be very strange if my dad did.
Although
it probably would have been cool.
says something else, but
Yeah. I don't know. It was a pretty punk thing to do, really. You know,
yeah.
just feel like total detour.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were also interested in that kind of music.
Yeah.
So I think we were like, honestly, probably already becoming a little bit sort of disappointed with certain aspects of what was happening in the music community. as far
Already?
Yeah, I know.
You just started.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, you call it when you see it. And it just seemed like there were certain elements of, overtly capitalistic ideals and things like this. And we also had signed a quintessentially brutalizing contract for records.
Mm-hmm.
And so our sort of like spite was immediately on high alert, and we had some success, I guess, with this first record that we'd made, and we were uncomfortable with it because we were beholden to these people who were, grave digging criminal types, and so just like soul suckers, and it was very obvious that we didn't connect, and that's okay. I mean, I know what they're doing, which is essentially just siphoning money from the government to buy cottages or whatever. But I think it was really hard for us to deal with that. And so we went really far in the other way. Just I don't know why, but genuinely, not like fuck these people. We're gonna make like an unlistenable acoustic LP or whatever. Like we were like genuinely still absolutely musically open and curious.
Yeah.
With a childlike wonder. And that was our reaction in attempts to maintain that wonder and integrity in a situation that felt very corrupting.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing with this because I always get into a bit of a conundrum whenever it comes down to labels or management that believe that they are artists but lack any artistic ability themselves, but certainly have a lot of opinions. It really conflicts with a lot of the things that they say they like from the DIY world.
Yeah.
And it sort of like questions like working with people that they know are not of those ideals. Like, why wouldn't you just get a different job?
Yeah.
And leave all of the musicians alone that are trying to like actually do something interesting?
Delusion is the answer to that question.
I should say too, this is no diss on any band that finds a sound, enjoys that sound, and sticks with it.
Totally.
But I mean, I've known so many bands that feel trapped in what they've created and feel like they can't actually do what they want to do. And I mean, we've had an interesting career of jumping around on genres or whatever you want to call it, but like there's a huge freedom that have come with that. Like we have a lot of people that enjoy that, and why not embrace those things instead of feeling like you're in a prison?
Yeah. I mean, with the third EP, Widows, you introduced the sound of your debut album following in 2007 called Marriage.
Yeah.
And on that album, Attack in Black placed themselves somewhere in between the Get Up Kids, Weaker Thans, Jimmy World, the Gaslight Anthem, Hot Water Music. Were those bands you listened to during that time?
The Weaker Thans, yes.
Yeah. So because, well, I think that your record probably might get the patch emo-punk, whatever.
Sure.
But that's nothing that you really listen to besides
I
Weaker Thans.
definitely listen to Get Up Kids, for sure. Yeah. But, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that was honestly more Spencer's influence, who was the guitar player in the band.
Yeah.
He was very much, he brought up, and Ian Kehoe to a degree. But Kehoe was more like, at that point, he like only liked hardcore. It's interesting. He's then since come very much full circle, and back again, and he's wide open as far as
you all are
deeply
kind of
connected. Yeah.
But
yeah, we at that point we pretty much loved this band called the Constantines.
Of course.
Yeah. And that was, we were like, that is what is good.
Yeah. I mean, Constantines, to give a quick introduction, they are kind of Canadian heroes, if you will.
Yeah.
They mix up like Bruce Springsteen and Fugazi.
Yeah. That's perfect.
The Clash and Americana.
Exactly. Yeah. It felt very like sort of utilitarian, working class, those types of things that were like really endearing and interesting about like, early 80s punk and hardcore, but with like folk tendencies and melodies. And it was just like a lot of drone, but like melody over drone type, like really barbaric sort of AC/DC isms too. But anyway, we still, I mean, they're kind of the best.
Yeah, I wish so badly that they might return because I have never seen them live, and I know that they are a very loud live band.
Oh yeah.
But let's stick to Weaker Thans for a second.
Yeah.
Because you said you like them, you listen to them.
Yeah. I mean, by way of propaganda.
And by way of propaganda,
of course.
From Winnipeg, so Canadians. But Weaker Thans also had a huge folk sensibility and a great storytelling.
John's lyrics were like, pivotal, I would say. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Did you ever meet them?
We
toured together.
We toured with them and the Constantines, actually.
Okay. Yeah. In this, like those three bands together?
Correct. Pretty good, hey?
Whoa. No way.
Yeah.
Some good times.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
So just a few months after marriage, you released another album that sounded completely different. If I'm not wrong, a friend of mine, I talked to him yesterday. He said you went on tour in Europe, and where marriage had just won people over.
Yeah.
You came on tour and basically played songs from the record that wasn't released yet. But that came out a couple of months after marriage. And that was very different. So it was an intimate, introspective folk album. And to be honest, I was mildly disappointed because back then I just fell in love with the sound of marriage, and now you did something very differently. What did you think? Like, what was your plan?
That we didn't have a plan. The plan was let's make sure that we can't get pegged down by these industry people that were sort of being unfortunately controlled by. And that was kind of our genuine reaction to that scenario. But also, it was genuine in a creative sense, because that was an aspect, an element of our interests, and I think we were just like, we'll just make the record this way, and then and then the live show will be, rock and roll and whatever. Maybe that's interesting. And so like anytime we played anything from, what is it called? Curve of the Earth? Anytime we played anything from that live, it was a rock song.
Yeah.
So we were just like, honestly, I think it might be Rick White's fault from Elevator and Eric's Trip, because we got really into Eric's Trip and Elevator, and I think we had a really bad recording experience also. Making Marriage, it was pretty miserable, and not at all what we wanted it to be like, and not at all like our previous experiences were like, when we had more control and we're basically doing it ourselves. And so we just went hard in the other direction, back to full control.
Yeah.
No suits in the room kind of thing.
But after that, Curve of the Earth came out.
Yeah.
You start like growing creatively, and you start like not only stick to your own band, but just like see whatever is coming.
Yeah.
So there's a guy called Jim Kilpatrick, better known as Shotgun Jimmy.
Yeah.
And in 2009, he releases a folk-based lo-fi indie rock record called Still Jimmy.
Yeah.
And the whole Attack in Black band is backing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Still Jimmy is the first album, Daniel, you release with your newly established independent record label called You've Changed Records.
Correct.
And for that you partner up with Steve Lemke
Yep.
from the amazing Constantines.
Yes.
So was the idea behind that label to maintain artistic freedom and be able to grow as artists and leave the machinery behind?
Yeah, and the paperwork too.
And the
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So how did you manage to come up with that label? How did you why was Steve in the boat and said, well, let's do it?
We were on tour with Steve, I think like solo, or we were backing him up, or
no, it was at Sappy Fest, I think, wasn't it?
right, we were so there's a festival on the East Coast called Sappy Fest, and all the bands we love started it basically and played there. And so we were invited out, and the first year we played, we were touring back home from there, and we decided, and that's kind of when we got interested in Jimmy's first record, which is not that one. And I think we just sort of were like, well, we should we want to play with him, because we like this record, we want to be his band, so we basically just approached him and we're told him exactly that, and he was like, okay, So we did that, and then on that tour, most of the songs from Still Jimmy were developed, and then we recorded it in Welland. At this point, we'd acquired a bunch of recording equipment, just for necessity. And I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure we were in Montreal on our way home from the East Coast, and Steve and I and Ian, well, we probably all were discussing the what it might be like to start a label, and if we should, and in order to put out this record that Jimmy had made essentially with us, and whether we could get away with that because of the bureaucracy that we were attached to, and it ended up working out, and that was the original intent, was just to do that, and then we ended up doing a split, sort of like covers for covers with Steve at the time, who went by Baby Eagle. And that was kind of like the jumping off point for everything to follow, so yeah.
Well, I don't know when. So you stick to the folkier side on the third Attack in Black record, Years, that appears in 2009, and during that year you moved to Montreal, where you both stay for a few years. What did you hope to find in Montreal, and how far did moving there open new musical possibilities for you?
Steve was living there.
Yeah, Steve was there, and Ian, the bass player, was there at that time.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, there was quite an interesting and intriguing scene, probably right around
there
the
was, but
arts
it was
and
really,
crafts label.
It was really kind of alienating, and also like really indulgent. Really, it felt pretty indulgent comparatively. I was like, why does every band have like 12 members? And
are you talking about broken social scene?
How many vibraphone players do you need to have in your band? So I felt kind of just like this. I don't understand really what this is. And I felt outside of it. But I also it's a wonderful city, and I had reason to be there. And I enjoyed my time there, but I did not connect with it on a musical level at all. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of just like what can happen when you fall into the premises of when a genre gets popular, and there's certainly nothing wrong with it. But like, yeah, I mean, if you were to go to any show at that point in Montreal, every single band would think they're the greatest band in the world and not realize that they are just completely replicating Arcade Fire in the town. So.
Either that, or they'd be like, "Oh, have you heard Arthur Russell? Do you know Arthur Russell?" And it's like, "Oh, you should check out this compilation by Arthur Russell." It's like, I mean, like, I love Arthur Russell, but like, it was like, why is everyone doing Arthur Russell? Like, just like, let's cool it with that. Or the Arcade Fire thing. It was just the two things, Anyway,
what about Godspeed You Black Emperor?
Well, that's the whole. That's the untouchable world, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, anything Constellation is like gold.
Okay, I give you that.
Yeah.
But you back in Welland, it's a short ride by car or bus to go from your hometown to St. Catharines, and the town where fellow Canadian colleagues Alexis on Fire are active since the early 2000s. And at some point, it seems you all become good friends. So when their singer and guitarist Dallas Green records his second solo album under his moniker City and Color in 2007, the whole Romano family is on board. Daniel, you even create the cover painting. How did this come about? I mean, the whole Romano family means there is one song where your whole family sings the backing vocals.
He just asked me to. I don't know if I was already playing with him or what, but he had asked me to come in and basically just like kind of be his number two as far as like playing instruments, I don't really remember. Did you sort of played on it? And I can't remember, but
I mean, I think a part of this, like, I think they admired the spirit of what we were trying to do, which, I think took time to figure out, but just the sort of like, we can go in any direction, and there's no rules on the genre thing, and why not pick up an instrument that you don't fully know how to play? And like, I know that they're still influenced by that. Like, anytime we hang out with Wade, like, I know, like, we can get into that later, but like, I think that it was only a natural thing that they wanted to bring, or I should say Dallas wanted to bring Dan in, because I think there was just like an element of curiosity involved with what things could be.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, you also team up with one of the Alexis on Fire guys, and that's Wade McNeil that you
That's
just
right.
mentioned. So he comes up with a band in 2008 called Black Lungs.
Yes.
And on his first album, Sand Flowers, you're playing drums. So how did you end up on there?
I guess a similar thing. Like that would have been around the same time, maybe slightly before or after Dan jumped on the City and Color project. I mean, we were just all like good friends and kind of grew up in the same community and felt sort of like kinship to that and inspiration. And I think he enjoyed my playing, and I certainly wanted to join and wanted to be a part of projects that were how do you say it? Just like embrace the community and embrace like a new friendship like that. And
Let's stick to Wade McNeil for a second, because in 2021, after overcoming, I think, a couple of substance-related issues, he records an album full of songs somewhere between classic and southern rock. And you, the both of you, help him to realize that album. How was that?
I think a similar thing. Like we actually, like I think we were always in contact with each other over the years. But I mean, this would have been right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I think he ended up back in Niagara, and we reconnected. And somewhere in there, it sort of came up to maybe collaborate during that time and work on what would be the collection of songs that he was written throughout that time. And I knew that he was very interested in maybe sort of like the some of the rock and roll freedoms, for lack of better words, that like that you can get musically, that I think we had been sort of like championing for a little while, like the sort of element where like
don't think, just do.
Just do. And I think he got really inspired by that, like into the first sessions of it, where like kind of the way that we operate is like there isn't a lot of writing per se. I mean, there you can go in with a song, but like it's you press record and you're gonna end up with the record fairly quickly, and then you have to learn it later. So I think he enjoyed that process too.
Interestingly, in the late 2000s, you don't really have a punk outlet anymore. I think Attack in Black by then is history, and even though you still love and listen to punk bands, the stuff that you listen to in your teens, but also now in your early to mid 20s, you start listening and loving the Hives, Turbo Negro, Dead Moon, the Exploding Hearts, and fellow Canadians, Fucked Up.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that's basically your soundtrack during that time, even though you play very different music yourselves.
Yeah.
So the multi-talented, multifaceted artist you also start working behind the scenes more and more, means studio work. Ian, you record a cool punk band called Rocket Reducers in 2010.
You went back, yeah.
Do you by then have your own studio where you do stuff like that?
Yeah, at that point, it still would have been
in Montreal, right? 2010?
No, we would have come back by that point.
Okay.
We didn't have our own separate studio up until the pandemic. But our parents luckily allowed us to raid their basement, and so we had a studio set up there that was kind of set up actually from the very end of Attack in Black, and just stayed that way. And my dad would use it.
Yeah,
and
the unreleased record was made down there, right?
The unreleased record?
Yeah, Attack in Black had made a fourth record. It's really good.
and in the natural way, it probably puts a bow on what is the sound of all those records sort of coming together. It's got a little bit of everything. Not that anybody will ever hear it. Yeah. But can I sort of interject for a second? You got into the fucked up thing. I will say at that point in time too, Toronto had an incredible punk community going on there. And one of the bands was Career Suicide, which I was lucky enough to join. Maybe that's already on your list there.
Yeah, we will talk about that.
Okay, I'll leave that at that. Sorry.
Yeah.
But also at that point, you were pretty consistent. Consistently involved in that scene, weren't you, Tommy, as well? Also, I'd be curious to know your perspective on when Curve of the Earth came out.
Tommy.
As a person, as a
punk person.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll start with that. Curve of the Earth came out. Like most people, I was probably pretty surprised.
Yeah.
But in a very good way.
Of course,
you know?
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, pleasantly surprised is how you'd put it. It definitely got me into a different frame of mind, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed listening to it with my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
You know, in a dark room.
Yeah.
I don't even mean sexually. I just mean it was just a very emotive and I don't know. It just made me maybe feel things I hadn't really felt before at the time. You know,
like
and
a bittersweet duvet.
Yeah. It was like very sad, but you know that pain that you just crave. Yeah, sweet sorrow. So yeah.
Okay, there was a second part that came first, I think. Yeah, the Toronto punk scene. Yeah.
I moved to Toronto in 2009, I think, and I played in a band called the City Sweethearts, which was kind of like a 77 power pop-ish type of band. What other bands were we playing with at the time? This is a pretty like fuzzy.
Danko Jones, maybe he's from Toronto at least.
Isn't he here? Is he here now though? Doesn't he live here? We were talking about that today.
He has a wife from Sweden, but they are still in Toronto, I think.
Oh, really?
Well, we know he plays here quite often.
Yeah.
But talk more about some of the Toronto earlier 2000s punk bands too. I mean, that was obviously like a massive influence on your bands.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe one of you guys take these ones. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's Brutal Nights.
Oh yeah, Brutal Nights, of course. I thought they were in Montreal.
No, Toronto. And who else? The Bayonets. What else was there?
I mean, I have an early memory of what would have been like an early version of Attack in Black, I guess. And this is not specifically Toronto bands, but we played with, do you know the Regulations from Sweden?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, just to sum it up, like a lot of the bands in Toronto at that point, like such a bulk of amazing records that were definitely like sort of in that zone, like referencing like early hardcore, but also like 70s punk and rock and roll and it probably was a good 7-year period of like ultimate creativity, with Fucked Up being probably the top of the heap of that, like releasing such a bulk of incredible songs and
just creating an entire ethos that was like untouchable.
I think it hasn't changed until now. I
Yeah.
mean, they put out 3 albums in 2024, and not only that.
Yeah. Their whole we learned a lot from Fucked Up for sure, as far as what you can do, like what you can actually get away with doing.
And how you can define punk.
Exactly.
Because anything can be punk.
Yeah.
When punks do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But before we had the
Yeah.
Toronto punk thing, we were like, you set up like a makeshift studio in your parents' basement. But by now, you have your own studio since the pandemic. It's called Camera Vada. What does that mean? Camera Vada, what does that mean? Is it Italian?
No, it's an homage to Agnes Varda.
Oh, okay.
Who is, I would think, the visually adjacent, the visual represents what we aim to achieve musically, visually,
Okay.
more or less.
Okay.
I just think is very deeply cosmically connected, and everything she did works on the sort of metaphor level that is like simple genius, you know? Yeah.
I know by now that you can get quite nerdy about all things music. So when it comes to studio production and production work, etc., whom do you idolize or get inspired by?
Usually the people who are the worst at what they're doing. Honestly, a lot of it is like, I can't think of anybody specifically. I mean, I don't really get nerdy as far as like producers, because we don't really utilize those. So we just like I think like if a record sounds interesting, then that can raise curiosity. But yeah, I mean, like the only person I ever like reference or think about is probably like Glenn Johns.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. You go, maybe.
I mean, I think maybe partially because of some past records that we made that I think we felt like didn't fully represent us sound-wise. Like I think it fit in with the time, and then I think we made a discovery, or at least I did, that I would much rather have a record sound interesting than good.
Yeah.
Because I feel like good can like close the genre gap too much, and I think like just a naturalistic approach to it. Like, sorry, are you?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything sort of runs back to the influence of like the 60s and the 70s sounds. But I mean, honestly, even going back to the early punk scene early 2000s punk scene in Toronto, like that's very similar sounds too, like slightly primitive, but just really interesting sounding. Some might argue bad. Yeah. I would argue against that.
There's also maybe an ideology behind this that, like, first of all, we're firm believers in limitations. Limitations are your friend, and also we're actively for wrong music as far as what is being represented. And as far as the technologies and mechanisms that are accessible to any given person now to make quote unquote perfection, and how that is actually sort of like alienating people against each other, probably, and limiting people's capacity for openness and connection because of the lack of human quality. So we advocate for incorrectness and mistakes.
Daniel, after Attack in Black is history, you start releasing under your own name. But you redefine your persona and become a full-blown classic country artist with your 2010 solo debut, Working for the Music Man. And the following 5 albums from between 2011 to 2016, you work yourself through all kinds of country niches. There is the melancholic rambler, there is the strings attached Lee Hazelwood sound, you name it. So how did you pull that off, and why did you do that? And how did you even like, okay, let's become, I mean, was it your plan like, okay, let's start this country thing?
No,
I mean,
not at
how?
all. I didn't know really anything.
was-
I mean, like I grew up with that, like hearing that music through my grandparents and stuff, but I didn't like, I think I had just at that time just gained a really interesting and sort of like paralleled appreciation for the formula of that type of songwriting.
Yeah.
And that just became the only thing that I cared about. Specifically, I would say George Jones's quality of delivery and song choice, and
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty delicate. It's not like rough outlaw country.
that's
but
the
it's,
juxtaposition, the paradox that's so amazing about it. Because like the hardest people I've ever known in my life, which were like the friends of my grandfather, you know, I would see them listening to Merle Haggard and stuff, and I was just like, this is so weird. You guys are like in a motorcycle gang, you know? And he was like, this is the music you like, you know? But then I'm like, I kind of get it, you know? And it's like this strange, you know, hard exterior, soft interior kind of thing that it was very interesting to me. Not because I personally felt that way, just because I thought it was so interesting, you know, human condition wise. And so I kind of just like dove pretty deep into that for a while.
and I mean, country music doesn't play a huge role in Europe
Yeah.
because it's just not like, it's not on the radio.
Well, and also
stuff.
it's not like about Europe.
But before hip hop became that big, country music and like in all sorts of ways was the best selling musical thing in North America.
Totally.
So I guess that you doing proper country went quite well, didn't it?
No.
Did it not?
Oh, I mean, like, depends what you mean. Like, I mean, at that point, like, I was doing something that no one was doing yet.
Okay.
And then everyone started doing it. But, like, no one was doing real, like, classic country like that, you know? Everyone was doing sort of like other than, like, you know, fucking Tight Pants, what's his name? I'm having a blank here. Dwight Yoakam. Other than Dwight Yoakam.
Okay.
You know, who kind of stayed true through the whole thing. Like new country was already that's what new country and you country was what was like popular, you know, which has nothing to do with, it's basically car commercials or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's McDonald's. I don't know what it is, but it didn't have like songs, and it sounded terrible, and all the songs were stupid.
Yeah.
You know, but there was this whole rich history of you know, like the sort of like next step of folk music, you know, the sort of hybrid, but like, you know, and that's what interested me. And there, you know, and at that point, there wasn't really so much of an Americana scene, like at the, and it just kind of like was, I fell into it, and not so much, I did not so much desire that, but that's just kind of where it made sense for that to land. And that's where interest was, you know, I mean, that you know, I'll plead ignorance here. I don't know. That was probably happening already, but it certainly seemed like once I was doing it, there was this influx of it being more sort of like dabbled with by other people. And I'm not taking credit at all. I just copied other people. 100%. But like the scene that came up around that I was not aware of, I detested.
Yeah.
So immediately I found myself in the same situation that I had been in for marriage.
Yeah.
The album.
Yeah.
And again, I met a lot of wonderful people through that, but also like it just seemed like this is a sub genre trying desperately to be something and having absolutely no root or rudiment or value or nothing. It's just like this, like, it was like this absolute, like, substanceless void of, I don't know what's happening. It's just like drinking. That's it. Smoking, drinking, shorts. I was like, what the fuck is this? But I was just like, this is not the world I thought would, like, this is a method. This is like, this is a practice.
Yeah.
So you'll notice a pattern here, which is as soon as something sort of because the scene in that certainly was about to take off, and there was some success that came there.
Yeah.
Not unlike with marriage.
Yeah.
But I think my semi-outsider look on this is, if you know in yourself that you will be unhappy to just regurgitate the same stuff over and over, which is what people want of you, you have to self-sabotage for your own sake. Yeah. That's like one way of looking at it from the outside. I've certainly heard people say it, but it's also a self-preservation. If that's like, if you know that your curiosity for art and music goes far beyond just capitalist need to create for sustainability or whatever it is, then you have to. And that's exactly what our career has been. Our friend Maddie Matheson pointed out to us not that long ago. He's like, you really should have waited a little longer on that country thing. It's like, you guys could have made some money there. And he's certainly right. But we wouldn't be happy with any of that. It's a necessity to not necessarily be completely selfish, but if
it's the opposite of that. Music is a cosmic service that we have the honor of being a part of and providing, and any commodification of that is against its will.
A cosmic service. That sounds mystical.
Music is mystical.
Yeah. But you stick together during the country years, right? Ian, you played drums.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure. I mean, in the way that you do for that kind of music, which I really enjoyed, actually, because a lot of that sound was not really what became fully popular now, which I think is more in line with the outlaw stuff. Yeah. But the reference point for a lot of the records that were being made by us earlier would have been 50s and 60s style country, which is, I don't think people even like that now, to be totally honest. I don't think they do.
They certainly didn't like it when I was doing it, but it came from a genuine curiosity to go deep into a very specific art form.
And you did go very deep. If I have a look at the covers of your records,
sure,
you dressed really authentically. You had a very different hairdress, and you had, I think on one cover you're wearing a nudie suit and whatnot. So very authentic. But with 2016's Mosey, there's a change. Yeah. Now it's kind of country rock-ish.
Sure.
Your dress isn't country anymore. It's an Adidas jacket and a polka dot shirt and a wild hairdress that you're sporting basically now.
Yeah.
Would you say that you got yourself into a transitional phase again? Yeah.
And it was very much sort of dissociating with a sort of clique, you might say, of there's something I just didn't feel like I belonged with.
What I find interesting is that on the Mosey record, you got actress Rachel McAdams guesting on the song Toulouse, giving kind of a French accented Nancy Sinatra to your Hazelwood baritone.
Sure. Yeah.
How did she end up on that song?
I have no idea. She liked our band, and we got to talking at one of the shows that she'd come to, and she's very, very sweet, nice, wonderful person. And we had a mutual friend, and so he sort of like set that up, and I mean, I was just like bold enough to ask, I guess. I was like, would you be willing to do something like that? And she was totally into it. So that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a Canadian band, or to be more precise, a band from Toronto called the Sadies, and they started playing country rock were basically in the shape of punk songs by the late 90s. Very short songs.
97. Yeah.
And is that a band that had an influence on you?
100, maybe the biggest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. At least as much as the Constantines, for sure. As far as like an attainable band of people who, a lot of our influences were actually like secretly just like hope, like a hope for future friendships, you know, and the Constantines were very much that way. The Sadies were very, very much that way as well. And basically, as soon as I started playing country music, that's where I wanted to land, because they got lumped into that sort of Americana thing a lot too, but they were not that. They are not that, and they've never really associated with that, beyond the, whatever, John Does or the Mekons or the people who are like really actually doing it, all from punk bands. Exactly.
From punk bands,
Basically, we're just sticking to the punks here. That's essentially what's happening. But yes, the Sadies are an untouchable force.
And the shape-shifting Renaissance man you are, that same year, 2016, you come up with a power pop / punk project called Ancient Shapes.
Yeah.
And the self-titled record is incredibly catchy and incredibly short. That's why you pressed the whole A-side also on the vinyl's B-side.
Correct.
And you play every instrument on the record.
Yeah.
Did the artwork, the recording, and only had a bit of assistance by a guy named Kenneth Roy Meehan.
Bless him.
Who is, I think, part of your studio thing until this very day.
Yeah,
right?
he's a member of the band. Yeah.
And what was the initial idea to leave the country? Basically you explained why you left the country thing.
Yeah.
But what ignited the punk fire in you again? And I mean, because this Ancient Shapes thing might have brewed up in you for a while you were still doing country, right?
Yeah. I think honestly I had everything set up in my living room, and I had just finished something, and then I was just playing drums, and then I just recorded it. And so all of those songs just were just drum parts that then became song. I was just like, okay, I'll just record like 10, 2-minute sets of drums, and then write songs over top of it. And so that's how that kind of happened.
What the heck? Okay.
Dedication to personal challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Limitations and project challenges. That's the goal.
But I recently had been on a power pop bender, diving deep into that rabbit hole of half-forgotten bands that recorded catchy songs with punk power, mostly by the end of the 70s and during the early 80s. Do you get lost in such rabbit holes once in a while? And how does that look like?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to navigate Bulgarian choir music, which is a very difficult thing to sort of wrap your head around. Obviously the language barrier, but also, just kind of every aspect of it. But I also think it's like the most incredible thing I've ever heard. So I'm just trying to like take it easy. And it doesn't really allow for a rabbit hole so much as there is pretty limited access to what has been recorded. But I mean, I understand the general sentiment of just being like totally. I mean, that's basically what happened to me when I started really paying attention to country music, like, you know, late 60s country music. That I was just completely enthralled by it, and it was the only thing I wanted to think about, and I really like studied it, because I think that that's how you learn.
Yeah. Ian, what about you? What about you and the rabbit holes?
Yeah, I mean, similar thing to what Dan was saying. Like, you know, essentially all of these musics like stem from each other. Yeah. So if you have a curious mind, you listen to whatever whoever you're referencing at the point or that point, like was listening to. And if you go back far enough, like, you know, you're at the beginning of American music, or you know, like Dan's saying, he's on a hunt for the Bulgarian right now. So yeah, like I think if you just have the questions of like how did they do this, and you know, you can find a close enough answer, and that can go down a serious rabbit hole. Yeah.
So Ancient Shapes is only you, Daniel, on record, but obviously
up until the last,
where you share duties, the both of you. But you go on tour with Ancient Shapes, so there had to be a live band. Would you say that this live band is kind of the seed for the outfit?
Yes. Yeah.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah, go for it.
So the most recent outfit record was originally going to be an Ancient Shapes record. And I think into the sort of collaborative element of that, I think me and Dan, and I actually really Carson kind of nailed it, just like kind of pointed out that like it's not an Ancient Shapes record, and it's not like what happened on the previous efforts for Daniel, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
So it basically just embracing that next step of creativity to opening it up to myself, chiming in the band for writing as well, but also just why can't this be whatever we want it to be? It's what we've always done, and you know, it kind of brings it back to a bit of the punk element, but it's still like, you know, it's still a very rock and roll record, which is ultimately, I think, what we are, or currently anyway.
So may your punk roots bloom again with Ancient Shapes. You still do work as a singer-songwriter, Daniel, on the side. So, for example, with the album Modern Pressure in 2017. But on that album, there's a song called Jennifer Castle, and she's a singer-songwriter colleague from Toronto. Is that song a tribute to her?
It's a tribute,
yeah, because you dig her that much.
Yeah, she's the best.
She's the best. Yeah. What makes her the best?
She's just deeply connected. She's one of those special people that is in both worlds at once, and so you got to keep those close.
Okay. Yeah. But you stylistically stretch yourself in all kinds of directions. On Modern Shapes, there is a song called I Try to Hold the World in My Mouth. Yeah. It's pure 60s psych with the tinges of sitar, I think, but I didn't find a sitar credit, only a violin credit to that record.
I played it.
You played the sitar?
Okay. Whatever. So.
But how does such a song come to life? Is it? Did you have like a little
beat, I think I just wanted to take the what's that drum beat? It's from like a Beatles song for sure.
It's Tomorrow Never Knows.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like, I'll just do that.
Okay. Okay. Well,
start there and see what happens.
Okay, but you until that point you never did such a psych pop jam before.
I guess not.
No. Ian, by the late 2000s, you do more and more production and recording work. But that does not stop you making music with other bands, and you become part of Career Suicide that we mentioned earlier, a punk side project of a couple of fucked up members and friends.
Yeah.
So, and you are playing the drums, you go on tour with that band. How did that mingling happen?
So I forget exactly what happened, but I heard that they were in the need of a new drummer. This would have been in 2010, maybe, or maybe a little bit past that. Doesn't matter. But I think it was actually through Dan reached out to Jonah, who
Jonah Falco, essentially the drummer of Fucked Up, but he does also everything else.
He's another one of those people. He can. I mean, I think his first instrument was trumpet, which I know he's still incredibly proficient on. So, and he's a jazz head too. Anyway, yeah, you have to understand, like, Career Suicide to me was like, along with Fucked Up, like the top of the heap of that. So to me, that was like joining the Beatles. Mm-hmm. You know, I looked up to all of those records and that band specifically, like the sort of brattiness of the Sex Pistols and like everything that's good about punk and hardcore, I thought was in that band. And I got really lucky to join them, both in touring and I think I've only really done one EP with them, but there's always talks about doing another full length.
Yeah.
Very special people.
If there's any band in Canada comparable with the productiveness of the Romanos, it's Fucked Up, I'd say. And of course, you exchange creative juices, not only via Career Suicide, but also with Super Porn, a short-lived project that seemingly recorded only six songs that you made available in April 2020.
Yep.
It's the both of you and Jonah Falco and Mike Halishak from Fucked Up. In my mind, that's a match made in heaven, isn't it?
It was a lot of fun.
I mean, and I see like similarities to your careers because I know how proficient they are and how many different things they have. Like they're also having a band called Jade Hairpins, for example, which do play power pop based on British punk rock and whatnot.
Yep.
So there is lots of common sense in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so why did not happen more than those 6 songs for Super Pollen?
I think a big part of it was like Jonah lives in London, England.
Yeah.
So a big part of it was there was only small windows of time to actually collaborate because a lot of the magic of this stuff has to happen in the same room. And all of those were like direct.
We just tracked them in their jam space.
Yeah, they were. I'm actually surprised at how fluid it sounds because they're all recorded in hugely different ways, and over time, basically, whenever we could get together with them, like months apart, and but I mean, I love those guys.
There's also another Fucked Up connection this way.
Tell me, tell us.
Yeah, I play in another band called Young Gov with Ben Cook.
Yeah.
Young Gov himself, who who was in Fucked Up for a decade or so.
Yeah, long.
Yeah. So
I think you're skipping one there too.
What? Oh yeah, as well. Yeah. Who also sang in No Warning, and I've done. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah. I played some guitar in No Warning for a few tours. Yeah, so it's one great, big, happy, dysfunctional family.
That sounds wonderful. In 2020, when COVID-19 made the world stand still, the Romano brothers had their most productive year. So including the just mentioned Super Porn, you released different records from your archives or totally new ones. And it must have been about 8 or 9 records that you put out in just 1 year. How did you pull that off? And did you plan to do so even before the pandemic, right? Pandemic was hitting heavily.
Yeah, it's a new album title.
Pandemia. Sorry.
No, definitely that was not planned. There was one or two records on the shelf, and otherwise everything else was made during that time.
Yeah. So that's how you just kept yourself from getting bored.
Yeah, and it felt like important to share, because that's why we do music.
Yeah.
And when you can't, caravan like you usually do, that seemed like the best way to do it.
Yeah. What I find interesting is talking about artists that are really productive and creative and put out lots of stuff on their own. There are a couple of those in the last couple of years, often, especially in certain scenes that also stem from being punks, like a guy called like Ty Seeger or John Dwyer from the OCs or King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Do you see similarities and between you and between them? Kind of, I don't know.
I see similarities between us and everyone in the world.
But this is what kind of still is missing, like a proper psychedelic rock record. That you haven't done that yet,
right?
Yeah,
I'm not that into it.
No,
I'm a song and dance man. It's like what are we doing with all this stuff? It takes too long. Let's just do the song,
Do you know? I kind of agree with Dan on that. Like, I think a big thing with it is that there's so many bands, like some of which you just mentioned, that do it so well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we could do an okay version at it, but like,
there's no necessity,
no,
right?
it's,
There's also the key component of we're not a drug band.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
We're straight lacers. So, in that sense, we're too boring for it. We're not.
But I wouldn't say that there are that Ty Seeger, John Dwyer, King Gizzard, that they are very heavily drug induced.
They're drug influenced, though.
Drug influenced, maybe. But if they would take loads of drugs, they wouldn't be that productive, I guess.
But I think surely they've done drugs, and I've not.
Maybe.
So
okay,
I don't have that connection.
Then I'd like you to explain to me the most far out thing that you have released so far. Those are 2 20+ minute songs called The Abstract Expanse and The Manifest Expanse, under the moniker Varianza. It's instrumental psychedelic music, kind of new age music, if you will.
Sure,
and that you created as a 432 hertz meditation.
Yeah.
What is that all about then?
That's just that was just carrying on what I thought might be helpful for people when everyone was sort of separated, because there's nothing worse than people being separated.
Okay.
So that was just, it's like the meditations I was using, and I felt like making something like that available would be interesting to do, and also potentially helpful to share.
Might you be so kind and explain to me the 432 hertz?
That's the true tone. That's like sort of like God's voice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's like a pre-standardization tuning, which I think was the Germans, making it 440. The old standard was 432, and there's certain experiences you can have listening to music at 432 that you just can't get. It's like more closely connected to the soul, I think.
There's also a thing that is quite close to what psychedelia might be. It's also on a record that came out in 2020. It's a 23-minute long psych prog song called "Forever Loves Fool."
Yeah.
And it actually features Tool's super drummer Danny Carey. And this feels so weirdly far off the path, but I suppose that there is a rational explanation why he ended up on your track. So please enlighten me.
I'll let you take that one.
So, we were playing in Los Angeles. I remember that, and I think I was doing merch at the time, and looked over, and I saw the tallest person I had ever seen, and he looked familiar, and I think I said, like, I think that's the drummer from Tool, to a friend, and then and then him and his wife Ryan, lovely people, introduced themselves, and we kind of became quick friends after that. And they're champions of ours, and we love them dearly. And we got to know them, and got to know a little more into the tunnel of Danny's mind, into him being just a huge 70s prog expert, and basically where his heart lives. So I think you actually started doing Forever Loves Fool before the connection was made, but I think there was some of the bones of Forever Loves Fool was coming together, and I forget who brought it up, but it was sort of like, we should bring Danny on this because he would know exactly what to do. Yeah. Like, just to have that mind and to take it into a place that you may not think.
Yeah, But it's a heavy on organ. Well, the track is heavy on organs, and it feels like a lost long track from the 70s prog band, or from a 70s prog band. There's lots of Emerson, Lake and Palmer in there, if you will. What inspired you in creating this monster track?
I think I just wanted to I think I was experimenting with a few guitar things, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I wanted to do something long format because I hadn't, and just seemed like an interesting thing to explore. That's essentially it, really. I had a general concept, I'm sure, and just ran with it.
But was it complicated to do a 23-minute song, or was it patchwork and you just recorded parts and just put it all together?
It was all in one thing, but it was patchwork as far as like when it came to overdubs and stuff like that. It was just like, what works here, what works there. It wasn't so much like let's chart the whole thing, and then I had like it's the same thing with La Luna. I just sort of like wrote with La Luna I wrote an overture and then expanded upon that. But with this I sort of just wrote. Of course you did. but with Forever Loves Fool, it was more like I had whatever this is decidedly going to be the beginning, and then what happens next, and it just sort of followed it, I can't remember if I had words first or not. Probably not. I think it was a musical first situation.
Ian, you are, I saw you on the interwebs recently sporting shirts by Dark Throne and Bathory.
Yeah. That's right.
So sure thing, you got yourself a little black metal project. It's called Valrock. And you released 2 songs named Ret and Orc.
Yeah.
So when did you get into metal, and what metal are you fancying mostly?
Well, this sort of loops into, what I was kind of saying before, into our own ethos of keeping it primitive. And that's definitely the kind of metal that I'm attracted to. I think I was sort of speaking earlier about, the sort of coming up through hardcore, which then sort of transformed in, the early 2000s with more, metal tinged hardcore, like, bands like Cursed and Converge and Coalesce, so on. And I think there's just like a form of discovery with anything else. You go into the back catalogs, and then I landed on a lot of like the early thrash, and then getting into what would be proto black metal, I suppose, bands like Celtic Frost and Venom, and then that's sort of where the other darker half of my heart lands. When I get home, I'm starting another project that is of that vein as well. The project you were describing is a first sort of attempt into the darkness, but.
and now you have to exercise blast beats.
Yeah, exactly. I like all kinds of stuff.
Daniel, you live between Welland and Austin, Texas. That's where your wife, Carson McHone, is from. She's not only singer and tambourine player in your band, The Outfit, but Carson is a proper singer-songwriter, often in an Americana country style.
Yeah.
And not only is she part of your band, but your band is her backing band for a couple of years now.
Correct.
Together with Carson, you lately released a cover EP called Odes, and there are songs from Margot Gurion, Conway Twitty, Arthur Russell, and MC5 on there. Was all that Carson's idea, or did you go hand
I
in
think
hand?
we kind of talked her into
Yeah.
the MC5 one,
Yeah.
but everything else was her idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please give me a little more insight into those sessions.
I think she just wanted to. I'm trying to think of exactly what her intent was. I mean, I think curiosity in the creation of the original tracks, probably, and she was thinking a lot more about production and sort of like ramping herself up for taking on producing her next record and how she wanted to approach that. And so these sort of referential materials that she was bouncing around with became sort of the the bedrock of what was going to be, and she felt like she should, or felt that it would be fun to sort of dedicate some time to the actual songs themselves.
What I find interesting is that you actually play cover songs on that EP, and are those the first songs you covered since Attack in Black and Black Flag? Because in between, I couldn't find out if you covered
We technically
anything.
did Bob Dylan's Infidels,
Oh yeah, that.
but like the punk version of that.
You did Collector too.
True, that's true. There's a cover of a Dawn Everly song on Mosey, I think on Mosey.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we don't do it very often.
No.
We do some nods here and there in shows, not right now, but sometimes we'll do like a riff. Oh, actually, we're doing an MC5 riff in the show right tonight.
Okay. But is it like, don't you like covering songs, or is it like, do you have so many original ideas that there is no need?
Well, that
for
sounds
covering?
pretty
Yeah.
arrogant. You're like, yeah, that one. No, but I mean, I like to, it's fun to share ideas, and but it's also fun to reproduce them. So I don't know. I mean, we've got a lot of material. I guess that's the problem.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, The Outfit is pretty power pop based in kind of ways, and also like 60s rock and rollish, like the. What is it? The Nuggets kind of psychedelic punk. But you are also into recent bands, and there are a couple of that you like to listen to, and that you probably, I don't know, kind of toured with or something. Bands like the Mystery Lights and Uni Boys and Billy Tibbles and Brower. And those are all kind of power poppy way with an authentic retro spirit, and it all feels like those are totally like-minded nerds, like you guys in The Outfit. Are those people that you hang out with, or that you tour with, and that you are interested in? Like, we totally understand what you're doing.
Well, it's just like we're grateful that they exist in a lot of senses, because I mean, sometimes it does feel like you're alone out here, and that's okay, because people, we're here to play for whoever cares, and we're gonna do it regardless. But to see that kind of scrappy energy in a generation under us, coming to the fore is like very, relieving in some senses, and inspiring, of course. yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that it's coming out of the metropolises of America. But you know, I mean, that's where that stuff comes from.
Yes.
There's also an element of I think something that's always been really important to us. Like we've always had like our community that we've built with everybody coming to the shows, but like I think discovering some of these bands has just like really been sort of eye-opening to just like how other people all around the world are starting to come back to this form of rock and roll. And it's really exciting to see because a lot of these bands, like Dan was saying, are actually a decent amount younger than us.
Yeah.
And to see them sort of like in the not the beginnings of their scene, but like a lot of them come from punk too. You know, it's like it's the same thing. It's just like to embrace that in each other is just so exciting right now. Like I don't know if I've been this excited about music in this way in a while. Probably since fucked up because like you know it's so easy for things to kind of feel so far away, but like the fact that like all of these bands are friends with each other, like there's a huge community between New York and Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. It's like I would think that in the next number of years, like if people don't know about these bands that are listening to this, like check them out. Like they're incredible, and you will be hearing about them more. I guarantee it.
Yeah, but you kind of wasted your day off with coming here and talking to me for hours and hours, and instead of like going to record stores and maybe have a look if there's something interesting to find. Do you still collect records, or do you find pleasure in just streaming as you're on tour and you can't, I don't know, carry your...
I don't personally have a streaming thing, but...
interesting.
And I'm not,
yeah.
I mean, whatever. I'm neutral.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But, yeah, I think like, I don't know. I listen to music at home, you know, and when I'm out, I take in whatever's happening. If it happens to be music, that's great. But I don't really like. I try not to fall into the void of escapism on tour because can be comfortable, and I'm an anxious person naturally, and I think there's an element of me that needs to be sort of like actively engaged in the present, in order to not pitfall in that way. But yeah, as far as like, I mean, like, yeah, I still buy records. There's a long way of answering that. Yes. Yeah. Still buy records.
I'm with Dan on that. I think partly what I was saying before, like about how excited I am about some of these new bands, was like that some of those first discoveries, like, and it came through friends, but it also came through, some recommendations through some of the streamers too. So like, I don't think that that's a bad way of discovering music, but like, if you can go headfirst into those communities, like you're going to hear about all those bands. And then the same thing is how probably a lot of us grew up. Certainly how we grew up. You get up the courage to go to the record store and talk to the scary guy, and then you discover all of the bands that influence the bands that influence the bands. And I think it's fun to be a participant and to give back to the community in that way too, like to actively discover and buy music.
Guys, I know it's not so easy to stay on track with all the stuff you're involved in, and actually it's too far or too much to talk about everything in detail, even in this lengthy podcast. But I have to thank you a lot for giving me this insight. So Daniel, Ian, Tommy, thank you so much for taking the time, coming by, and talking with me about everything you did.
Anytime. Thank you for having us, and thank you for the soup.
I feel truly honored. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much.
Liebe Zuhörerinnen, Zuhörer und alle irgendwo dazwischen, wer auf dem Laufenden bleiben möchte und neugierig ist, in welcher Situation das Gespräch stattgefunden hat, darf gerne den Instagram-Kanal des Visions Magazins abonnieren oder meinen persönlichen unter Jan Schwarzkamp oder selbstverständlich beide. Wer das Online-Abo von Visions Plus abschließt, kann den Podcast schon immer exklusiv vorab hören. Bleibt gesund und bleibt mir treu und wir hören uns dann hoffentlich bei der nächsten Episode von der Soundtrack meines Lebens wieder. Bis dahin, euer Jan Schwarzkamp.